Well, Thom Malone is here after the opening day of Royal Ascot. How were your tips yesterday, Tom?
Not great. It's a character building. Horse racing is character building. They say it'd tame lions, but yeah, look, back in a few leads at Royal Ascot's not the worst thing in the world.
Okay. They unveiled another statue of Lester Piggott yesterday. I don't know what kind of, is he in good health? He showed up anyway?
He showed up. He's seen plenty of public. He was renowned for being very media shy back in the day, but he go to an opening of an envelope these days, right. It seems. But anyway, they're unveiling statues and, telling him how great he is.
I'd show for the unveiling of my own statue.
Yeah, absolutely. There's quite a few statues of him going around at the moment.
There's 9 apparently, in honour of his 9 Derby wins. They've got 9 different statues of him that they're just like...
It was pretty impressive. And look, I always loved the Lester Piggott story, though. He just had to come back after he got done for the tax evasion, aged 53. And it's like, well, this is all I know I can do. So
he was still pretty good at that stage, though,
He's still pretty good, yeah. He came back, won a couple of derbies,
Right, okay, yeah.
But no, yesterday was all about one man, really. It was the Aidan O'Brien show. 2 winners for him. I think his 9th winner, the Coventry with Arizona. He stepped up from a maiden into that, which is a very impressive performance by No Nay Never. Looks like he'd go on to be a Guineas horse next year. And a piece of absolute genius in the training of Circus Maximus. It's a pretty unorthodox route. So it was Jim Bulger did it with Dawn Approach a couple of years ago. But to go up to the Derby trip of 1.5 miles with Circus Maximus, and then only a couple of weeks later come back down to a mile to run against proven Guineas horses in the St James's Palace Stakes.
So explain why that's different.
Just the pace of the race is just so different. I mean, the mile trip versus 1.5 mile Derby trip, it's all about stamina, whereas like something like a Guineas, it just happens so quickly to just jump out, bowl along.
Guineas over a mile,
shouldn't really have the pace to compete adequately in both.
And how did he get on in the Derby trial?
Well, in the Derby, Circus Maximus was ridden by Frankie Dettori, and in the very early stages he stumbled coming out of the stalls, so actually nearly dropped Frankie inside the first furlong, and then he kind of made eye-catching enough progress, came home around 7th, I think, but yeah, he was eye-catching enough. He just couldn't possibly get involved after that. But owners said it was Aidan's decision. Aidan said, no, the lads. I love the way they called them the lads of Coolmore, as if, some of the richest people on the planet are just like the lads. John Magner, Michael Tabor, Derek Smith, when they're compiling the running plans for these potential superstar stars.
So why would that have happened? Why would they have thought he was a Derby horse and then realised after that actually... Or was the plan always for... Was the Derby run designed to get him fit for this race?
No, but Aidan O'Brien has such a quality of animal in his possession that it is always worth having a go at the Derby. This horse is so regally bred. He's by Galileo, who is the Derby king as regards if you want to breed a Derby horse. He's out of a mare called Duntle, who's a dual Royal Ascot winner and effectively a Group 1 winner, although she was actually disqualified, but she's first past the post in the matron. Circus Maximus is bred regally. If he was in any other yard, he would be an absolute superstar. But because Aidan O'Brien has such a volume of riches of horses, middle distance horses essentially, he throws 7 runners at the Derby and then he works out from there. But again, with 3-year-olds in their development, and this horse is 3, the timing of the Derby, it's actually an incredible ask of the horse to go and win at a track like Epsom, which is an undulating, turning track with a horrific camber on it, that it's just, as they'd say, it's the ultimate test of the thoroughbred. It's got uphill, downhill, it's such a difficult test. So that's why they always go for the Derby, and these horses are all entered in the Derby as basically yearlings as well. So that's a potential flag, and then if that doesn't work out, then they just work other plans from there. But to go from 1.5 miles back to a mile in consecutive Group 1s, having run okay, is quite rare. Although, like I said, Dawn Approach did attempt it. He did it successfully, but that's because he just ran so badly in the Derby.
Right. It's such a different race, though, right? And that's the whole point.
Yeah.
There's that extra half mile means that you completely change your pacing and the ask of the horse. And
there was an incredible tactical element to the race yesterday. So Aidan O'Brien would regularly run multiple entries in the race. So even though they had 2 Darn Hot, who was champion 2-year-old last year, Phoenix of Spain, who's a very impressive winner of the Irish Guineas, so they're proper milers. But Aidan O'Brien had 2 basically horses in it at 66-1. So the assumption from other jockeys, and they get sucked into this trap so often, is that the 2 other ones are there as pacemakers, which is technically not allowed, but that's the assumption that they're just going to go and put the pace to the race. And so as the horses jump off, you get this thing where the jockeys look round looking for the 2 Ballydoyle so-called pacemakers, And the two Ballydoyle pacemakers just dropped out the back, and Ryan Moore shot straight to the front and controlled the entire pace of the race, and it was just a masterful piece of jockeyship. And then he just made every yard. He controlled the pace of the race, and then Frankie Dettori came to him about a furlong and a half out. Ryan knew he had more stamina in the locker, and he just eked him forward, and it was, you know, it was just a brilliant piece of race riding. And it just goes to show the value of having top class jockeys on board in the biggest races on the biggest stages, because there's a few other instances over the course of the day that I don't really go into because it's too technical, but like instance where you're like, if Ryan Moore, Frankie Dettori had been on board there, that would have been different.
Go on, go into it. We can take
well, in the Coventry Stakes, for example, there's a horse called Threat, who was ridden by, you know, a young English rider, and he was the second favourite in the race, but as it came to sort of he got a dream run basically up to about the 2 furlong point, and then he had 2 options to make. So if he went to his right, basically the 2 market principals were fighting it at that side. If he went to his left, 2 lesser market rivals, but the easier option was to come to his left. The pace died immediately when he went that way, whereas if he'd lugged with Oisin Murphy to his right, he was only beaten fractions in the end. Not that I'm saying he wouldn't have, you know, been beaten by Arizona ultimately, but it was just the wrong decision. But it's just those split section decisions where the Frankie Dettoris, Johnny Murtas and Ryan Moores of this world
if you're going to draft off the good guys.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing about booking jockeys, they all cost the same. So it's not like there's a premium to be paid for Paul Nolan used to always say that it's like, you can have all the apprentices you want, but you can't really look an owner in the eye and say to him, "I'm leaving Ruby Walsh in the locker room." You can't do that.
Yeah, it's fair
and
enough.
Actually, on jockey as well, Johnny Murta on ITV or TV3 or Virgin Media Racing yesterday, his insight into how the jockeys are riding the races was brilliant yesterday.
He is a media superstar now, turns out.
Yeah. No.
Straight off the horse, straight into training, straight into media. It's
you can do it. You can do it.
Nothing he can't do. What are we looking at today?
By the way, friend of the show, Willie McCreary, has a great chance today in the opening races today with Queen Mary Ickworth, number 13 the card, around about 9-1 as well. She's a dual winner. She's by Shamardal in the Godolphin Blue. Shamardal Blue Point, who won yesterday in the same colours, also by Shamardal. So watch out for her. But she's a really good price. She's 2 out of 2 so far.
What's the name?
Ickworth in the first race of the day, the Queen Mary. So, yep, like I say, friend of the show, Willie McCreary. Big race of the day is the Prince of Wales. Magical for Aidan O'Brien tops the market there. Sea of Class is the intriguing runner. She won the Irish Oaks last year, was second to Enable in the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe. It's her first run of the season, so that's a slight negative, whereas Magical has a much bigger fitness edge. Also, Sea of Class has never really proven herself to handle soft going, but that's just because, in a weird quirk of fate, she just hasn't happened to have encountered soft going, because most of her racing was done last year when we had a dry summer. Yeah. So there wasn't much there wasn't much soft ground on offer. But yeah, Magical has a right favourite chance. Aidan O'Brien's a wonderful record in the Queen's Vase as well at 3:05. He's won the race 6 times. He's got Norway, who finished 8th in the Derby that day. So that's a real proven ledger trial. It's actually changed the distance of that race recently to make sure it's a proper ledger trial. So Norway, expect him to do well in that and then go into St. Ledger.
And do me a favour, Tom, just tell me the name of that race again.
Queen's Vase.
How do you say it?
Vase.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Screw anybody who says vase.
I am really paranoid about saying that word as well. I'm really
Anybody
paranoid
who says
about
vase needs to hand in their passport immediately.
Vase, vase or vase?
Vase.
You say vase.
Vase, yeah.
I'm not even saying it either.
He just said Queen's Vase.
Queen's Vase.
You can hand in your passport as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else we're looking for today? What's the...
The race of the day is the Prince of Wales. It's an absolutely brilliant race. Look, Magical could do the business, but I'd love to see Sea of Class do it. I think she can go and cement her arc claims today, and she can lay down a marker for Enable.
Good stuff, Tom. Thanks very much for that and for the lesson in pronunciation too.